Buffalo Bills are coming off of another strong 2024 season where they finished with a 13-4 record, winning the AFC East for the fifth consecutive year and reaching the AFC Championship game. Now, we all know that the Buffalo Bills wound up coming short in the AFC Championship game, ultimately continuing their Super Bowl appearance drought and still not having that Super Bowl ring like many other franchises. The Bills, though, were led by all-Pro and MVP for the first time quarterback Josh Allen, as Allen was great this year and probably his most efficient and effective season of his NFL career, where he took care of the ball and completely controlled the game from start to finish, not necessarily relying on hero ball, but playing within the system. The defense was once again one of the top units in the NFL, and this team was poised for a deep playoff run. They once again ran into the buzzsaw of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's been a similar theme for this Buffalo Bills team to come up short in the playoffs regardless who they are facing. I want to take a deep dive in this video whether or not the Buffalo Bills are in a true Super Bowl or bust period heading into the 2025 season. Since Josh Allen took over as the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, this team's expectations have changed. When Allen took over, this team was stuck in a very interesting point where making the playoffs was a big accomplishment, and Buffalo hadn't necessarily seen sustained success for almost over a decade. And then they hired Sean McDermott. You draft a quarterback like Josh Allen, and even in Josh Allen's first year, a lot of people were concerned about how he would perform. He started his career at 5-6 record, a lot of interceptions, was nowhere near an accurate quarterback. And then he broke onto the scene, slowly developing in his second year. And then his third year really took off, becoming the star we know as Josh Allen. Since his first year, he's taken Buffalo to the playoffs every single season. This team has been to the AFC Championship game. I know his third year they got there, and they've been fighting to get past that point since then. And it feels like we've been saying the Buffalo Bills have been a Super Bowl caliber roster, a Super Bowl caliber team, but can't seem to get over the hump, whether that's against the Cincinnati Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs in the postseason. It is what it is. The Buffalo Bills are still incredibly talented, and they do have the same sort of script that heading into the 2025 season. Is it the Bills' year? Is it not the Bills' year? Josh Allen's the first player that I want to talk about, and he's clearly the main player that we discuss when talking about the Buffalo Bills. Allen is coming off of what I would say a career year in terms of efficiency. He had his least interceptions. He had the highest QBR of his career, among other key stats. And we all know that he won the MVP award over Lamar Jackson, who you could have debated deserved the award as well. But Allen is coming off of a career year in terms of being an efficient and effective quarterback. We all know he is among the most talented in the league at the quarterback position, and he's proven that over the last few seasons. Josh Allen isn't just a player that can manage a game and be efficient now. He's a guy that can also take over a game and win you a game. And that's exactly what you need at the quarterback position. And that sets you up for long-term sustained success, like we've seen from the Buffalo Bills over the past decade. Now, defensively, it's been a very interesting road for this team over the past few seasons. We have seen the Bills defense rank among one of the top units over the last decade, especially since Sean McDermott took over as the head coach. Since McDermott took over, this team runs a heavy zone scheme, typically relies on their defensive backs, including that very solid secondary duo they had between Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. That is no longer there, but this defense has been consistently good, and they are among one of the top units year in and year out in the NFL. The defense in the postseason, though, you could argue is not necessarily the most effective. They have struggled consistently getting a pass rush in the playoffs, and they also have struggled with their cornerbacks not necessarily matching up very well against these really solid receiver groups and really good schemes. And it's been one of the biggest flaws among the Buffalo Bills. And Sean McDermott is not necessarily providing those adjustments and having the talent to perform on the defense end in the playoffs. And ultimately, that's what matters, is getting it done in the postseason. Now, some other concerns that they've had in the postseason that haven't necessarily paid off is they've had receivers that have come in and out of this team, and they haven't come up in the big moments. Now, last year we saw them form a makeshift group of players between Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, newly drafted Keon Coleman, among other players, and it worked out very well in the regular season. But in the postseason, none of these guys took over and won the game when they needed to in the AFC Championship game, and was just a dominant force. In the past, we've seen combinations where they've been top heavy. They have a guy like Stephon Diggs. Diggs wasn't necessarily super big in their playoff runs, But Gabe Davis was not necessarily a shiner in the regular season, but he performed very well in the playoffs. Now, this team and strategy has evolved, and in 2025, they are trying to make moves to get them over the top. Let's start off with the free agent class and the moves they made in 2025. Now, they didn't necessarily lose any big pieces. This team lost Mac Hollins and some other smaller players that left, and they didn't necessarily make the most flashy moves. We still have Amari Cooper and Von Miller as free agents right now. Who knows what they're looking like? Obviously, the Bills cut Miller, but in free agency, they went with Joey Bosa instead of Miller, which honestly, in my brain, felt like a wash. You could have just re signed Miller at a cheaper deal after you cut him, but they went with Joey Bosa. And we know Bosa has really good production, all pro seasons in his past, but has struggled with injuries, and the production isn't necessarily there. So, in my mind, that move is a little bit of a wash, if not a net loss for them instead of Von Miller out there at the edge, who kind of had a resurgent season in terms of pass rush. It provides no value against the run, but Von Miller was still solid off the edge last year. They went and added to the makeshift receiver room with Joshua Palmer and Elijah Moore, who fit perfectly with this group of just very average receivers who might fit well in Joe Brady's system. I think Moore is more of a competition in the slot with Khalil Shakir. And then you have Josh Palmer, who's going to fight outside snaps alongside Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, and Khalil Shakir will be that starting unit for them and the wide receiver position. I do like the move of adding Larry Ananojobi. Really butchered that last name there, but really solid interior player for the Steelers for multiple years now. And he's a plus player against the run. And that's one thing that leading into this draft class they needed to address is the interior defensive line really struggling against the run last year. And they did it in the draft. They get a player like TJ Sanders. Obviously, he was one of the better run stuff players in the draft. And I think Deion Walker is an interesting name for sure. He was one of the most highly touted recruits and draft prospects heading into 2025, but ultimately didn't have a great senior season, and he fell in all the way into the fourth round, and the Bills were able to snag him there. You get three new defensive tackles in that room alongside Ed Oliver, who we know is a pass rush specialist. They're able to have a solid rotation in that interior defensive line that honestly is super intriguing for me heading into this year. At the edge position, they did add Landon Jackson, which is a really solid move. I feel like he fits Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa, and him could form a nice little trio. Jackson's very solid against the run, okay pass rusher, but I think Joey Bosa is going to be more of that specialist for them there. You rotate Jackson in on early downs, and I think that's a solid fit that keeps Bosa healthier and it allows this team to be better against the run this year. And then we all know their big time pick in Maxwell Hairston, a player that a lot of people are torn on. I think in terms of the fit with Buffalo, it's really good. Hairston's very good in zone. He has twitchy skills. He reads, quarterbacks in zone very well, and it's what he ran a lot at Kentucky. And I think with him paired with Sean McDermott, it's a very good duo. Now the off the field concerns, we'll see what happens with that. But I think in terms of a scheme fit, replacing him with Rasul Douglas is a free agent still. You have Elam who's there, who's now out of there, and I think him and Teron Johnson in that secondary could be a very very solid duo for them. As far as the roster goes heading into the year overall, I think let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball where their biggest concern for me is. And I think this team did a decent job of trying to retool this unit, but it's kind of the similar problems that Buffalo has been having in the postseason, the way this unit's shaped. Now, they're probably going to be one of the top 10 units in the NFL during the regular season, but no high upside edge rushing. And I think Rousseau is a fine player. I think Landon Jackson can be a fine player. I think Joey Bosa is an okay player still. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't think that fine gets by in the playoffs. We have seen teams that win the Super Bowl either have elite edge rushing or necessarily a top tier quarterback that carries them. And unfortunately for the Bills, they face top tier quarterbacks in every step of the playoffs, and it makes it really hard to go through and Josh Allen to carry them in the postseason. Adding edge rushers is a must for this defense to improve. And I don't think they did that good enough here in the offseason. As far as the cornerback room goes, I already alluded to it. I think Benford mixed with Teron Johnson and Maxwell Hairston on the outside is a solid trio at the corner room. And it gives Sean McDermott a lot to do. But the safeties, I don't necessarily know if I like it. I like Lewis. I don't like DeMar Hamlin and Cole Bishop in that back end. I think they got a lot of work to do back there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they have the two best tackle combinations potentially in the NFL in Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins. You pair that with an elite quarterback, it's always going to have a really successful offense. I think Joe Brady's a strong coordinator, which helps. The James Cook situation looks like it'll be fine. Whether or not he signs an extension with the Bills, we'll see what happens. but I think that James Cook will be suiting up for this team in 2025. Heading into the last year at Highmark Stadium, this truly has a chance to be a special season for the Buffalo Bills. They have tried to retool the offense and defensive side of the ball by going with a more committee by offense approach at the wide receiver position and trusting the elite tackles in Josh Allen. And then on the defensive side of the ball, getting a little bit more youth on that defensive line and the cornerback position to go pair that with that talented offense to try to make a deep postseason run. We all know that the AFC East is run by the Buffalo Bills, and it will be once again in 2025. The real question lies in the postseason. Can the Bills finally overcome the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens, whoever it is, get past the AFC Championship game and have a real chance at the Super Bowl? Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think and if this Buffalo Bills team is going to be the team that finally makes a Super Bowl and potentially wins it in their last season at their home field. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content, and I will catch you guys next time.